Welcome, everybody, to a very, very special and different live stream here today. I'm joined by Minarik and Petr, and it's so great to have them here for a very different kind of stream. This is a developer tech talk, and it's not, connected to space engineers directly. This is talking about the technology behind space engineers and the games of Keen Software House. So definitely looking at the engine, and but obviously a big topic today, that is volumetric water. So let's hear a little bit from Minarik and Petr now. How you guys doing?
Hey.
And welcome everyone. And I will introduce the topic a little bit, and then I will leave the word to Petr, because he's the main guy here. So about a year or so ago, we started to work on the new version of VRAGE engine, which is numbered like number 3. Before that, we had VRAGE 2 for space engineers and VRAGE 1 for minor works. And VRAGE 3, the reasons why we want to develop VRAGE 3, there are many, and we'll be talking about them in some future dev talk like this one. We actually did quite thorough analysis of all the engines on the market. We spent 3 or 4 months actually doing this analysis, and before we picked, before we choose the VRAGE 3, our own engine, to work on it. And the main reason why basically is that during the development of space engineers, we have gained so much experience with this kind of games and this kind of engines and the requirements for this kind of engine, that now we have a better idea how to design it basically all from scratch to do it better. Like for some of you who are programmers, you know that many programs or libraries or engines, they gain some kind of technical depth over time. And sometimes the best that you can do is start from scratch, basically. Take only the good experiences and do it again. Don't try to fix, the existing things. So that's the reason why we are working on VRAGE 3. And Petr here will be talking about one of the very important features that we are working on, which is volumetric water. Very simply, it's about having engine support for water that is on the planetary scale. So not just some little river or a little lake, but the whole planet with oceans, lakes and everything. With gravity, that can be centric or even not gravity, which is the water in space. Completely volumetric with all the physical properties that the water should have, and Petr will talk in much more detail about this. And so I think it's a very fascinating topic, and maybe it's actually different kind of water than everybody is expecting from space engineers, developers, because there are some water modes, or there is a water mode for space engineers. So this will be really different type of water that we are talking about. And I also want to emphasize a few things before people, let's say, will have some kind of assumptions. So
important.
What we're talking about today is not, you should not expect it for space engineers, the space engineers that we are playing right now. And we are not promising anything. We are really just showing some tech. And the main reason for this is hiring, that we want to show what we are working on so that we can hire some people who are interested in solving really challenging problems and actually solving algorithms or engine features that nobody else is working on. Because I don't believe that anybody in the world is working on a volumetric water that is so that can populate or fill up such a large areas as what we are working on, and work on a real-time level and have all the proper physical properties that the water need to have. So if somebody is interested in this kind of like pushing the boundaries and being pioneer in this part of field, then please get in touch with us, and we would really like to hire people who are interested in this topic. And so again, we are not talking about space engineers today. We are talking about VRAGE 3 R&D, and also everything is subject to change. So even the things that we'll be showing today, like maybe they will be changed in the future. Like who knows? Because it's still R&D. So many things, it's just natural, in this kind of work. So, and one last thing is that, Vašek, if you can hear me, please release the VRAGE page. And please also post the link to the VRAGE page to the chat so that people can read more about VRAGE 1, VRAGE 2, and then VRAGE 3.
It's on the screen as well right now. keensoftwarehouse.com/vrage.
And also the content of this page will be changing over time, obviously. So that's all, and thank you very much. And I will stay here, and I will be doing Q&A with Petr later after his presentation. And now I'm giving the word to Petr.
Thank you, Marek. Hi, guys. Let me introduce myself. I'm Petr Minarik, and I have been working in Keen Software House for like 10 years. I'm even not counting that. And I always like to work on innovative ideas, on great technology, on something what is unique and great. And I believe space engineers and our VRAGE engine prove that. And I also believe that we will prove that also in our future. Let's start with a small sneak peek into the presentation that you can see what's awaiting you in future minutes.
Okay, yeah, so we're going to roll the trailer now that Petr prepared for this. So this is a bit of a kind of a summary of what you can expect today. Let's play it. And there you go. Pretty cool, right? I know that we posted some clips on social media of these 2D software kind of examples of the water, but there you can also see some of the footage in engine as well. So really, really cool stuff. And we're going to get into all that in the presentation that Petr has prepared today. So are you ready, Petr, to begin the epic presentation?
Yeah, let's start with that. Thank you,
Okay, John. Super. Here we go.
Let's check what we have here. First, I will talk about features, what we expect from our water. Then I will talk about technologies, what are available and what we can inspire from. And then I will explain how current water implementation works, some basic principles, pros and cons, and so on. Last part of presentation is showing work in progress, telling you about next steps, and showing you also some live examples so you can see how water behaves in real time. Our requirements are not small. As I said, I like challenges. I like innovative and great stuff. And as you can see, our water, if we succeed to make it as we want, it will be huge. It will be really great. First, and the most important feature request for our water is that it is volumetric. There is no fake, no plane, no sphere behind that. It's pure simulation, similar to voxels, what you know from space engineers, something like that. We want water to be interactive. We want our players to play with water and have fun with the water. Flow simulation means that we want our water to create rivers, to flow in direction of gravity. We want to be able water to conserve mass, so it's not disappearing randomly or being created randomly. It just behaves realistically. We want water to have some buoyancy feature, that objects are flowing on the surface. The objects are not only flowing, but also it's possible to drone them. So if there is a hole in the ship, this ship will drone. Of course, scale. What we are talking here about is not a small pool or small lake. We need to simulate water from the pool to planetary scale. So even oceans, seas, very large amounts of water, even water planet. It's huge. Pressure is also important feature of water. More deep you are in the water, more pressure is pushing to you. So if you have some ship down in the water, it can be crashed, it can be deformed by water pressure. It's called hydrostatic pressure. And last approved feature is surface tension. This force, this tension, is creating that nice bubbles what you can remember from NASA photos. If there is water in zero gravity, water creates the bubble, globule. So this surface tension will create these nice globules. There is, of course, many other ideas what we can do with the water, what we can simulate, but all of the rest is features to consider. It's nice to have, and we will see how it is going. So what we have, what we can use, there are two main technologies, the most famous technologies for simulating water and water flow, not only visual, but also some behavior. And the most famous is probably technology SPH, smoothed particle hydrodynamics. This technology is based on the principle of simulating many thousand or millions of small particles, small globules or spheres, and with right physical properties for every particle, you can achieve behavior of water or liquids. You can see that visuals are really nice. They are stunning.
Amazing.
As SPH is being simulated on GPUs, it's highly optimized, but it's very well suited only for these visuals and nicely detailed videos. It's not so well suited for large-scale simulations like planetary simulation with rivers and oceans. There is just not enough performance at current computers what could compute it, what could calculate all that stuff. Next slide is video with my prototype trying this technology in space engineers. You can see 500 particles simulated and creating, let's say, piece of water. But you can also see that it's clearly visible. It's not water, it's just a bunch of particles. To have better visuals, we need some blob rendering or surface tracking and another work. This was experiment. Still, it's fun to play with, and it was fun to create it. Next slide, please. Another technology, second one, most famous technology, is called Cervar Automatas. Compared to particles, it's grid-based, and all simulation is being calculated in cells. So let's say we have grid with 30 or 64 by 64 cells, and in every cell in this grid is some amount of water or some amount of mass. this kind of simulation is very easy to understand, easy to visualize, debug, and is also fast and stable. By stable, I mean that water is not boiling randomly. Pieces of water are not firing outside the screen. It's nice and easy algorithm. It's also used in some games already, like Minecraft or Islands. And on the other side, it also has some disadvantages. For example, it's tightly aligned to axis. So let's say gravity, you can have it only in vertical axis. You cannot change gravity vector. And as you know, we need any gravity in VRAGE, any direction or any strength of gravity. There are also other disadvantages of this technology, but I think we can fight them. This video, you can remember from trailer, from introduction video, is prototype implementation in space engineers showing this technology, Cervar Automatas, simulating waterfall. You can see how water is flowing down, it's following gravity. And what you cannot see much here is that water is able to create small lake at bottom.
Wow. It's cool how to see. It's also cool to see how it kind of branches off, going around the other kind of pieces of rock that are sticking out. That's awesome.
Yeah, what I like about this technology is that it's aligned to our voxel technology. Voxel is also implemented in grid. It's 3D grid. So we can take this water implementation and very easily connect it with voxels and check these collisions of water with voxels. And these collisions create these nice streams flowing down on the mountain, on the rocks. Next slide. And then, of course, there is many combinations of these two technologies. Because everyone was trying to combine only advantages of these two and trying to create ultimate technology with only good behavior, only pros. So there is many shortcuts like bits, flip, and so on. But what's unfortunate is that all this research, all these technologies are mostly focused on details and quality of visuals. So you have nice shore with waves, you have nice snow simulation, but it's for movies or for offline rendering. The most close research what I found for what we need is simulation of drones in cities. So it's interesting, but not exactly what we need. So I can see that. Well, I can say that what we are researching here in Keen is very unique. It's challenging, difficult, and I think that if we succeed, it will be really huge, and water feature will be really fun to play. It will be a really nice feature in any game we use it for. And I think that's nice time here for taking a short break. And after it, we will continue with technology introduction and explanation.
Super. That's a really exciting start already. I've been really enjoying reading the comments in the chat. What do you guys think then? It's awesome, isn't it, Marek, to see like it's been a lot of research has gone into this already, as well as obviously experimentation on our side.
Yes. But I think the most important thing is that Petr is excited about this topic, and he has been excited about it for the last few years, and he's working on this. So I have like zero doubt that he will not finish it. And because something like this to do with somebody who doesn't want to work on it, or like if I would have to push him to do it, I think it would not work, because this is really something that like the passion must come from him. So that's why it's super good that like Petr is the main guy behind the water, and he's the driving force. And also his track record is like, looks like a proof that he will deliver, because as Petr said, he's working in Keen for 10 years. Maybe it's even more than that. And
OG.
OG, but he's
the
OG because I think he's the first person who joined Keen. Well, basically after me.
After you, yeah.
So in some sense, like Petr is, or I treat him, or I see him as a co-founder of the whole thing. And the things that Petr has achieved over the years as a programmer, and then later as a producer for space engineers, and then again as a programmer, because he wants to be programmer, he wants to develop things and not manage people. So the list of things is just huge. And what I like is that Petr doesn't give up, about these things, that he's passionate, which is really rare. And you need this feature to achieve hard and challenging problems. And there were many like this, in space engineers. For example, the deformations that, like we can do deformation on grids. It works on real time, even for larger grids and complicated grids, or that we have planets, really huge planets that are completely like destructible, and there is seamless transition from space to planet, or that we have these super large worlds. So it's not just like some small planet or some small asteroid area where you can play the game, but you can actually play it in a really large solar system, and you can seamlessly, without loading screen or anything, travel from one place to another, and the game doesn't break and it works. So, for example, Petr designed a system for this, the system of clusters that can work independently and maintain the floating point precision and so on. And so there are all these things that Petr has done, and I'm like 110% sure that he will also deliver the volumetric water, and so yeah, that's really good.
And I mean, I think that what you said about the having the passion for it is a really big part. And actually, you see it. We've had it with certain features, within over the course of the last years for space engineers, and we also see it in the wider ecosystem, in the modders as well. Like, and yeah, when you set yourself like a target and you want to reach it no matter what, it's the end result can be a lot better than if you're kind of like not forced to, but something like this, right? So
it will never work, basically.
Yeah.
And also Petr has the attitude of a person who, like, he's looking for solutions and not for reasons why something cannot be done, And imagine working on the water with somebody who tells you all the time that this cannot be done, nobody has ever done it, like we cannot do this on the planet scale, we can do it only some smaller scale or anything like that. So Petr understands what, if you want to deliver this into some game in the future, that it really needs to be kick-ass and revolutionary, and it cannot be half-baked. And yeah, so he's working on this, and that's really cool. And also, of course, he knows the most about these water features. Like I'm not so well versed in all the details, that of the physics that he's doing with the water, and also all the optimizations and everything. So, and you will see during the presentation that there are many things, like, for example, loading, with the water, obviously, something that is needed, and not loading just for the visual part of the water, but loading for the simulation. And there are many things, many tricks, basically, that you as a game developer need to do in order to make something that cannot be real time because obviously we don't have CPUs these days that can do planetary scale water simulation. It's just not possible, basically. But it's possible if you start implementing some tricks, and that's basically what we do in game development all the time, that we find a way how to basically not compute something. And that's the funny part of game development.
But I think what you've actually said about water for many years, Marek, is that, because obviously everyone's always asked about it in Space Engineers, and I think your answer's always been the same, is that it would be cool to have, but you would want to do it in the proper way, right? Yeah. It would have to react like you would expect it, and so on. So yeah.
And the kind of principles of VRAGE engine always have been from the beginning that volumetricity of the environment, that basically there shouldn't be some kind of, the planet shouldn't just be like a triangle mesh that you cannot destroy, or a triangle mesh that is just some kind of like fake, as we say, Potemkin village kind of thing, that everything should be volumetric, made from some atomic parts. They don't need to be small like atoms, they can be larger, obviously, like blocks in grids in Space Engineers, but they should be volumetric, and everything should have some functionality. And if you start combining these things, and they start interacting, you should get some emergent complexity that is not just some of these individual parts, but something more, that you get when the things start interact. Then you will get this free form, or this like really open-ended possibilities, or open-ended emergence kind of possibilities. And so this was always, even without realizing it many years ago, because I wasn't thinking about it so clearly, it was the principle that we wanted to maintain from the beginning. So doing water that will not have this feature, it felt like we would introduce something to VRAGE that just doesn't belong there. And so we were quiet for a long time, but then Petr started to be interested in water, and we discussed like what are the requirements and what will be like a no-go, that this is not enough, basically. And we had a like agreement on this. So that was beginning of Petr's project.
There you go. I just wanted to, before you, just for people joining us, because obviously I see lots of water. I just want to reiterate for those who are just joining us now, as Kianada put in the chat, this is technology we are currently researching for VRAGE, and is still very much in the R&D stage phase. So yeah, this is just a kind of heads up for you joining us, but it's definitely really, really exciting stuff. So I'm now going to hand it back over to Petr to continue this presentation here.
Thank you, Joel. So let's continue with explanation. And thank you, Marek, for kind words. It was nice to listen. I even didn't want to stop the break.
Well, now it's recorded on YouTube, so you
forever.
I can listen to it again and again. Let's continue with explanation of current water implementation. I decided to use combination of that presented technologies, a little bit of particles, but mostly grid simulation, Cervar Automatas simulation. And the reason is performance. We need performance, as you can see, because of planetary simulation and all that loading and stuff around. So performance is priority number one. But we also need a realistic behavior of the water. So all that flow, surface equalization, and pressure. And for this kind of stuff, I'm using tricks taken from particle approach. One of that features what I took from particles is introducing velocity into grid simulation. And another feature what I introduced is center of mass. So center of cell is not in arithmetic center of the cell, but can be moved inside the cell. This helps a lot with a realistic flow of the water. And definitely as I said, grid-based simulation is very compatible with voxel's technology. Why I picked these properties and not else? Because I need to think twice what to pick to not destroy that performance, to not introduce any disadvantages or wrong behavior. So far, I like velocity and center of mass, and we will see if it is enough or not in future. And how to work with these properties? Basic behavior of our water is diffusion. It means that water is constantly expanded to its surrounding, to its neighbors. So if it is not limited, it expands to infinity. You can imagine that it will create fog or mist or steam or something like that. And the tool, how to fix this, how to make water liquid, are forces. So we need to use forces to keep the fluid liquid or keep the water realistic, and also to be able to interact with the water. Everything is done with forces. This picture is showing the order of steps, how algorithm works. First, I apply forces, calculate velocities from forces. Then I do water diffusion. And then, because of overwriting old values, I need to have some kind of double buffering. I will just apply changes to another buffer. And there is a space for next iteration of user interaction and doing this again and again. And doing these steps fast enough creates magically realistic and nice water. This is simple example showing how forces work. There is no other force, just this interactive force pushing or attracting water. So in one part of animation, you can see how cursor is distracting water, and one part of animation is cursor attracting water. And then, of course, diffusion, nothing else. So even with these simple parts of the algorithm, you can see that water behavior is very interesting and it looks realistic, at least in my opinion. So what forces we use to create realistic water or believable water? First of all, it's gravity. We need that because we are used to that. Then it's pressure, but it's internal pressure between cells to keep them homogeneous with similar amount of mass inside. And then it's surface tension, which creates tension on the top of water and is able to create that nice globules in zero gravity. These are forces we are using for creating realistic water behavior, but we can introduce much more forces, like game forces, let's say, forces created by wind, environment, thrusters, turbines, whatever else. What you can see now as cursor in animation can be ship thruster or anything else interacting with water. And this is even more detailed drawing of the cell, if the algorithm, and showing how it works. This purple small square is center of mass. As I said, it can move whenever inside the cell. And this arrow is velocity vector. In every cell, there is some velocity, it can be 0 or some velocity with any direction, telling us in which direction the mass should flow. And this velocity is calculating from forces being applied from all around. This is debug draw of our prototype application, where we are testing everything in 2D because of visualization, because of debugging and testing many variants. But it's very easy to add new axis, to add third dimension and move it to 3D space. So everything is 2D now, but when it works properly in 2D, it's very easy to put it to any 3D space and see it as flowing water and not only bunch of squares, blue squares. On these pictures, you can see how velocity is set up inside the water near the walls, or how it is set up if there is no force being applied, just a little bit of surface tension. Okay. At the end of this presentation, I will show you live examples so you can think about what kind of examples you would like to see with current water implementation. Now I will talk about various forces, or that forces what are internally used for realistic water behavior. The first of them is gravity. We want gravity to be very dynamic, so it is point-centric. It can be changed at any time. It can be even 0. It can be animated. It can be directional. It can be like many options. And it works because it's just force, same as all others. We can use gravity also to create water planet. You just put gravity to center and let all water to flow down to the center. This is example how gravity works. This green arrow in the middle is the gravity itself, and water is following it. When I move force to 0, it means that there is no gravity, and water starts to create globules because of surface tension. Now you can see these globules. Another force is internal pressure, and this pressure simulates behavior like filling gaps, let's say, or filling U-bends where water, if you put water into one side, the surface should equalize on the other side. So it's pushing water to spaces where it would take a long time to get there just by diffusion. It's something else than hydrostatic pressure, and it has some disadvantages, but so far it's the best way how I can simulate this realistic phenomena. One of the biggest disadvantages is that it creates water compressible. So this is something what I would like to challenge later or make it less noticeable. You can see the example here. If water is put to this left side of U-bend, it fills very fast right side of this U-bend. And this is the behavior what you would expect from the water. So this must work in any case. And I need to say also that we are not simulating air pressure. So even if this is closed, water can get here in this space. And last force is surface tension. It's creating these nice bubbles in zero gravity. It's pushing into right directions to the surface of water and making these blobs or globules. It also prevents the water to split into environment and create the fog. And this is nice example of these globules in zero gravity. You can even see how it is possible to connect them and play with them. Okay, let's talk. This was about forces. And now let's talk more about diffusion. One of the reasons why this algorithm is so fast and easy is that water can expand only in 4 directions, only into right next neighbors, like up, down, left, right. It's a biggest difference to particle approach, where you need to find the neighbors and it's dynamic. Here it's always set up and it's always same. Important feature of the water is called diffusion radius, and it's saying how much is the water spreading, how much it spreads to these neighbors. So bigger radius is, the faster water spreads to its neighbors. And it can spread only to direct neighbors, not more. Here I try to draw it, how it works. So in the first part of the picture, you see full cell of water. Then diffusion goes into the part. Water is being split to same parts, up, down, left, right. And finally, after diffusion, it's being distributed evenly to the neighbors. So this is basic behavior of our water. We can say it's probably fluid behavior, but we are using it for water. What's interesting also is that we can use this behavior for gas simulation or airtightness. We can use it for finding or filling rooms with oxygen, for example. My addition to this diffusion algorithm is adding velocity, and it helps us to keep direction of mass movement in the water. So then we are able to create flows. We are using center of mass, as I described it before, and we are using velocity vector, where end of this velocity vector is the center of the radius, of diffusion radius, where water is being spread. And again, I tried it draw, so it's more easy to understand. Here it is center of mass, velocity vector. And here in the center of velocity vector, in the range of diffusion radius, the water is being split into the neighbors. And this feature creates effect of water flow. This is example just of pure diffusion without any velocity or force. And I can say that this is example of creating mist or fog or just room with very, very low amount of water in every part. It's called humidity. And this is time for another small break. After this break, I will show you some nice animations from current implementation, nice bugs, and also will show you more what we are currently working on.
Super. Yes, I know. This is. I know you're. What did I say, Petr? This is. Must be such a proud moment for you to present this to the community. Like this has been many, hours and months of work here.
Yeah, it seems like very easy if you tell it in few slides, but it's really a huge amount of time spent in thinking and trying various prototypes and checking things how they work together. And I really like that this works. So it's a good step, but we need to do much more steps to have water in VRAGE.
For sure. I mean, and there's just, and I think what the other thing I was just reading the chat here, people were surprised at just how many features or mechanics of water you've been experimenting with. It's not just you thought about so much already. It's really, really awesome.
Yeah. What I think is that with simple but working strong feature, you can create a lot of fun. If these basics are working properly, like forces and diffusion, you can create so much with that you are limited just by your imagination. But it's almost indefinite amount of possible ideas what we can create with that.
I've seen some really interesting ideas already what people would do with these water mechanics as well. Well, I'm looking forward to doing some Q&A a little bit later here. But yeah, I'll definitely let you have a break here a minute here because I don't want to keep you talking. I know it's a lot of talking to get through. And what do you think, Minarik? How was what were your thoughts on some of these awesome mechanics of water, some of these kind of almost advanced compared to a lot of other games implementations of water?
So it's surprising how complex it is. That the water that we have, in real world, it's really complex phenomena as well. Like if it didn't have all these properties, then it wouldn't work like water and many other things in the universe and in the nature and in biology wouldn't work. So it's really interesting to see, like when you are basically trying to build up the water from nothing, then you realize how complex feature of this universe it actually is. And that's quite funny, because in the real world, you just use water, right? Like you drink, you swim, and so on. And you don't even need to know how water works. But when you want to implement it to an engine, and you really go from bottom to top, then you understand how complex phenomenon it is. So this was interesting. And also what I think is interesting is that it's possible to do, because many times in research, in games or AI, we have some idea and it sounds simple and elegant, basically. But in the end, it's not so easy to do. That's many times this happens in research. So it was really really nice that Petr was able to make this one work. So that's another comment that I have here. And also kind of open topic still is that what gameplay features the water can provide. And we can discuss about this later. And because basically with water in our games, we'll be able to add new kind of element. Because now, basically, you have only one or two types of elements, like, the voxels, the terrain, which is kind of solid and can be destroyed and can be mined, but that's it. Then, of course, you have like space, empty space, and then you have grids. That's another kind of element that we have in our game that, like you put together blocks and you get a ship or, a car or a robot or something like that. And with water, it's a different, like totally different kind of element. And I'm not even sure what like what will be the consequences of it in the gameplay, what new types of gameplay possibilities it will offer, what kind of challenges it will bring for players, and how they will be able to use it. Because what I learned in Space Engineers, and actually this is not surprise, is that every new mechanic that we give to players, and a mechanic which has this open-ended capability, so they can combine things and get more and more and more, they will do it, and they will surprise us with their things. Like this is what we have been seeing last 8 or 9 years, is that, we make some new mechanic and people, they just move it to the next level and they do things that they combine the things in ways that you would never expect. And it's kind of hard for me I'm actually trying to think about scenarios that people will be wanting to do with the water, maybe some like aqueducts, like romance, or maybe some kind of challenges that you are building a base in the deep ocean and there is the pressure and everything, and you need to build it so that it doesn't break, and maybe you cannot just swim there, in the deep ocean. Maybe you need to have some drone or some submarine. That's another thing. Then and Petr will be definitely talking about more ideas about gameplay consequences of the water. And or maybe you will be able to trap some players by kind of flooding them with water, or maybe you will be, because Petr will be also showing the water in space when there is no gravity, or like maybe there is some artificial gravity, and that also creates funny things. Like, for example, one demonstration that Petr was showing us, and I hope he will show it today, was also that he has this planet. He's simulating the water on this planet, and then he changes the position of the gravity or the vector of the gravity, and the water leaves the planet, and then he actually brings it back, if I remember it correctly, and if it wasn't just my dream. But
so some like universe sandbox stuff, some really crazy.
Yeah. Imagine that you steal the water from some planet using gravity, and then you can like splash it back or something like that. So it was really interesting, and so I am quite sure that people will invent thousands different ways how to kind of like exploit and hack this feature.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking towards that, because this is what I like about the types of games that we are making, is that we make the feature that when you combine things, you get this emergent open-ended, let's say, consequences. And with water, I think we will be opening like a new field or new space. For
sure, totally. There's so much potential. It's a whole new how to word it, like Pandora's box of possibilities. I'm just thinking about everything, because I've talking about on stream multiple times how I would love to have this underwater gameplay as well, and building. Imagine, like, I'm not sure if you with Subnautica, it's just so immersive underwater. There's the kind of underwater stuff, and then there's also like the rivers, and there's the things in mechanics that you can use with the water itself, not just like the environment water. So there's so many things, and of course the water mechanics leading to something like lava and other fluids as well is also really, really exciting. I just wanted to kind of point out a comment I saw in the chat, actually, just great to read, is Mr. Coconut says, "It is nice to see developers this in touch with their players. They are streaming even their researchers." So yeah, we really appreciate that, Mr. Coconut. And Kevin says, "Even though this is R&D stuff, I am excited that Keeners is considering adding water." I mean, again, this is more about the experimental research R&D phase, but who knows what the future can bring, eh? So, how are we doing, Petr? Are you ready to continue?
Yeah, let's continue.
Super. Okay, let's jump back in then.
Okay. What I would like to add is that it's so fun, even now in 2D version, that I can just play with that instead of implementing and doing other stuff. I am just trying what it is able to do, and what fun we can create with that. So it's really promising.
For sure. I mean, I'm sure even It probably won't happen, but I'm sure even the community would love to get their hands on that, just to play around with that tool there.
Yeah, if anyone wants to play with it, just apply for position in the team.
There you go. There you go. Well, Experiment with Water, we're hiring, always looking for talented programmers and artists and more. So please do check out our jobs page if you think that you're ready to take on some of these big engine challenges here.
Okay, so let's continue with some work in progress pictures and animations.
Oh, super.
This is nice example of lava or very viscous liquid. What it can be used for many purposes. It can be honey to tea, or it can be lava planet. It can be melted iron with fire, whatever you can imagine. It looks cool already, and just use your imagination. Another nice example, or I can say bug, what I've created is boiling water. And it's also fun. We can use boiling water as a game feature for some nice effects. If we prepare food, for example, you can think about other usage of boiling water, or what it can be acid, for example. We can use it for acid gun. And this is example, this is not a bug, this is currently a feature. It's planetary or large scale support for water. So you can see how I am testing that. I've created large planet in this 2D version, and I am simulating water in this scale. And it must be fast, it must behave correctly, and it must be believable. And it's not easy. So you can see the scale, how small suddenly this lake looks like if it is shown on a whole planet at once. And this is not the biggest planet what we will support. This is example of loading and how it currently works. Because to be able to simulate such big area, such big planets, I need to scale down water complexity in some way. And I'm using lots, which is already used in voxels. And I also want to use something like concealment from current space engineers. So you can see how water changes its level of detail, how it starts to become pixelated. And compared to voxels, I'm still being able to simulate water in these lots. So if it is switched to lot 3, it's being simulated in lot 3. So it's much faster, but much more or less precise. What is also good to realize is that spoon of water behaves differently than ocean. So I just cannot take small amount of water and scale it by size. I need to change or scale many other parameters to make believable ocean or believable pool. It's not just the size scale. And what's next in front of us? Definitely performance, which means loading, concealment, and other tricks how to improve performance of water. Then it's some nice surface generation, because we use this grid-based simulation. We need to create surface mesh or surface net, showing the surface of water, like showing the sea or lake itself. We don't want to see just bunch of cubes or squares. We want to see nice waves moving, some nice surface refracting and interacting with stuff in the water. Definitely, buoyancy is another big feature awaiting us. Together with all that Archimedes principle and hole detection, we want to be able to create ships, able to sail on ships, and if there is a hole in the ship, it must drown into the water. And last part of this huge research is moving everything into 3D space. Now there is time to show some live examples, and probably if you have any questions, I think it's time that we can ask them. What do you think, Joel?
Yeah, no, I think that can be. Oh, let me just bring back up this. There we go. No, that can be, if you want to do, so do you want to do the Q&A now, or would you like to just do some live examples first? I think probably best is questions till the end, I would say.
Okay.
Because that
so
way
I will stop screen sharing now.
Okay.
I will switch to live application.
Oh, wait. You're going to stop streams sharing. But you'll show your screen still, right?
Yeah.
You're just changing the window.
Yeah.
Okay, great. You don't have to end the screen sharing. I've hidden it off the stream for now, so you can just get the application up and leave the screen sharing on to keep to make sure our carefully positioned setup here isn't disrupted.
Okay, so
yeah, it's okay.
Can I switch it now?
Yeah, you can switch it. They can't see your screen now. I know.
Okay.
We wouldn't want any leaks now, would we?
Even if they see it, it's just little bit of source code.
Just okay. We should be good then. Yeah. Yes, Tomasz. He is from the Czech Republic. I'll say most of the team, but probably still most of the team is from the Czech Republic and/or Slovakia.
Okay, it's changed, Joel. Can you check it?
Yes, it has changed. Let me see here if this works all right, because the only problem is, let's have a look. Okay, that is working. So I'll go full screen though, probably. Let's see. Okay. Oh no, it is good. It is good.
Yeah, looks nice.
Yeah, it's good. Okay. I'll go like this then. There you go.
Okay, so guys, what you can see now is a whole planet. You just see small part of it. I can zoom it, that you have some idea how big it is. So we are on the planet, and this yellow cross, yellow arrow, is gravity of the planet. And what I will do now is that I will change the gravity. I will move it up a little bit. And I will move it to the left. And how we can call this is probably water steal from planet.
Yeah, this is cool.
It's so bizarre.
This is the way how to steal water from the base of enemy, for example.
Oh man.
Okay, so I will put water back to ground.
Put it back, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, as I said at the beginning, we want this water to be completely interactive and fun to play with. So I can also, for example, edit voxels and soil here. So I will dig a tunnel here. And you can see how water reacts, how it flows, how it fills the tunnel properly. It all even creates waterfalls.
Petr, and how is it currently with the water as a conserved quantity? Is it conserved, which means like, do you have constant amount of water and you are not losing or adding water out of nothing, or there is still some like, little changes?
There is constant amount of water. It's shown here, water amount. So you can see it's constant. If there is any change, it's floating point errors being accumulated together. So as there is 5 million liters of water here, I think that's change of few deciliters, it's acceptable, and we can say it's vaporization or just soaking water into the soil, for example.
Quantum physics or something like that.
But the main idea, main design or main rule of this water simulation is that it's not leaking anywhere and it's not appearing from infinite source or something like that. How we can solve this in future is, for example, that we can create some environment cycles. We can create areas on the planet where it is raining and it's creating rivers which are flowing down to ocean. And in ocean there is so much water that it's not recognizable that something is missing there. Okay, so I'm still digging the tunnel. I will do it bigger.
Yeah.
And as it is being now larger and larger, I will change loading. It's not automatic yet. It's just manual. But you can see how suddenly how much it is faster. And I will also show you how it behaves at the center of the planet. It's not falling down, it's falling to gravity center. And in gravity center, it's creating this globule or very small water planet. Or I don't know how to call it. But I expect that if we have gravity center, water will create this.
I don't think that anyone ever created this kind of water simulation.
And do you have waterfall into gravity center? What I can show you also is some kind of optimizations, because I have a lot of like helper debug draw. For example, this, I call it water clusters, and it's trying to sleep the water, to calm down the water into some state where it's not being changed a lot. And in this state, I am not updating water at all, so it's very fast. You can see 60 FPS, even there is waterfall. And that's also my idea, that even flowing water can be optimized so well at the end that it doesn't need any updates. Okay, so let's show another. Joel, do we have any requests, or can I change example?
Let me see. 1 second, Petr. I just wanted to. I'm just adjusting some things on the stream. Are you going to show anything? I shouldn't. When you open something or not? It's okay.
Okay. I can show another example of U-bend. I have prepared some, or I can show. Okay, so let's show some water flow.
Okay. Please stand by. Okay, good. I'm going back. All right, there we go. Okay, so back up now, yeah.
Great. So this is testing scene for me to test water equalization. You can see how water fills up empty parts of tunnels. It's caused by pressure.
I love this. This is
If I remove these voxels, it will continue filling empty space. And the speed of water is depending on amount of water in this part. So less water here, lower the pressure is, and slower the water comes up.
And in the left top corner, is there some source of water, or the blue, cells that we see? Okay.
It's just compressed, a huge amount of water compressed to this area.
And Petr, does the real water compress or not? Because I cannot.
No, it does not.
It does not. But there, in this kind of siphon looking thing, this triangle looking thing, there is compressed water. So there is more water than we see, kind of.
Yeah, there is more water than we can see. I can indicate it by color, for example, that more dark, more black color of water means more compressed water. But so far I have just few shades of blue. Okay, and for example, now I can create waterfall here.
Oh, that's so cool. When you open it up and it's
Yeah.
I know this is one of your favorite examples, Marek.
Yes, this one.
It shows so many things happening.
And what's also cool that it's not hacked, it's still interactive. That I can, for example, change gravity angle. I can change gravity point. And you see, now it is upside down.
Yeah.
And now waterfall is here and here.
It's getting very confused.
So, a lot of possibilities what we can do now. And just for fun, I've created possibility to play only with force. So I can make this like grabbing of water, for example, or pushing to water.
Okay,
now I'm pushing to water with my cursor. Can see how I create waves.
But this could be something like crashing into the water. This could be a force of being applied to the surface of the water.
Whatever. It can be tsunami weapon. I don't know.
No, I'm seeing some great ideas in the chat. Actually, people were talking about flooding people's bases underground, all kinds of. Yeah.
So this is pushing to water, and opposite is grabbing the water. So something
Vacuum.
like gravity gun.
Uh-huh.
So you can see how I take the water. I can take it to another planet and push it there.
It's very satisfying to see this.
Yeah, as I said, I can play just with these features and think about how to improve them or how to use them.
Warhaber says it's very impressive. And Finn says, when is the release date?
Yeah. Okay, any requests what people want to see?
I have some questions from the chat that Aaron's been gathering. Well, I'll get to in a bit. But yeah, is there any requests from you guys what you want Petr to try and do now within this software? Maybe change some settings. Maybe there's a certain thing you're curious to see how it reacts. Let's have a look.
I can switch to some settings that you can see what's possible to change.
Okay. Wait in here, see. Mac is asking, can there be two centers of gravity or like two gravity sources?
Yes, there can be indefinite amount of sources.
Yeah.
Because we can always calculate just one from them. Any amount of gravity points or gravity sources can be combined into one vector or one direction. So it's possible. And it's also how current space engineers work.
And Petr, you mean calculate various gravity vectors into one, but per cell, right? So
per cell, yeah.
Good. So not all cells having one kind of averaged gravity, but doing this averaging only per cell. So it can still be that part of the water falls to the left and part of the water to the right.
Exactly.
Like that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Some people are asking about changing the viscosity.
Yeah, I cannot change viscosity. Sorry.
Yeah. Not right now. Not, you've seen it change, but not in this particular. Okay.
You've seen the example, but
Yeah.
it was caused by bug and it was hard coded. It's not the proper water parameter.
Actually, you mentioned this, Petr. Yeah, you mentioned this, that how like some of the things you came across were actually bugs, but it actually somehow through this bug actually created a feature.
Yeah.
It's not a bug, it's a feature, So, or like a mechanic of water. I mean, there's actually lots of requests here. I'm not sure. Maybe if you look at the chat, if there's one that you think that you can do, would be the best way.
What we can do more. Okay, I can play with gravity. Like I can disable gravity at all.
Oh, so like water in space then almost. Yeah.
So now it is water in space and now there is no gravity at all. And I can create leak here. So you can see how water is being spread.
Wow, oh, that's so cool. And it's like...
So it's not fake. It's not limited to some borders or edges. It just simulates to whatever space is needed.
That's so nice. I love the way it kind of disperses out like that.
Then I will put some surface tension.
Uh-huh.
So now I am creating these globules or blobs.
I'm curious if you have a force and you can basically force the water out of this cave somehow.
Interactively, probably.
Yeah, interactively.
Yeah.
I'm just
like,
can you
like this.
Yeah.
But
I guess the surface. Oh, it's interesting how it's kind of like the globules are. It's like a lava lamp.
Yeah, or water on glass maybe also.
Because it's completely changed the way it's reacting because of that surface tension now, right?
Yeah.
It's.
And Petr, it feels like the surface, when you increase the surface tension, it's almost like ignoring the gravity and
sticking together more.
Gravity.
Yeah.
Now there is no gravity at all.
Okay. And
now there is again.
Okay. So basically the effect of the surface tension is that
look at that thing, man.
sticking more easily together, right?
Yes.
I love watching that little bubble. Like, yeah, look at that. It's gonna roll off there. I mean, Casper says, "Wow, even this demo is way better than water in some 2D games." Maybe that's what. Maybe a 2D game use of this water would be the easiest start.
Yeah. If we find some good gameplay for this, it can be really fun. Okay, so this is gravity and surface tension. What
so
else?
Bizarre. 2D engineers. Automatic D's asking, is the right-hand chamber pressurized? If you pop a vent, does the water level equalize? Oh.
Once again, please.
Is the right-hand chamber pressurized? So basically, well, it's because it was above and the water. It's hard to see what it's talking about now because the water level's in place. I think this bigger chamber is that pressurized? Is there like a okay?
If I create a hole here, it should leak out like this. It's caused by pressure.
Okay, wow. And again, you said there's more water in there than it appears. That's the main thing. It's not just that. That's so cool. Look at that, like that waterfall streaming off to infinity
now
there.
I should reload the scene because it will fall until it reaches gravity.
Okay.
And it's here.
So long it's going all the way. Yeah. I think his question made a bit more sense when there was the different gravity there. But I think the idea is that you can have these pressurized areas, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Amazing.
And you can use them for gameplay purposes. You can squeeze ship if it is inside such pressure area.
Oh yeah, of course. That's another question as well. You know, like how now we have submarines and stuff, and they're specially pressurized, you know, to go to these deep depths. Is that's also right an important part, because as soon as you have a body of water that's even, you know, remotely deep, those effects can be quite strong. So it's cool to see that it's cool to see the pressure mechanics actually working here as well.
Yeah, but it's not real property of water. The real water is not compressible, but you can see that it's very fun to play with if you have this feature.
Yeah, could you make this demo available to download so we can play an experiment with water physics? I know I would play with it for a bit, yeah, for sure.
It will be even more fun when there are dynamic objects.
Oh yeah, definitely. Then you can watch how they react and interact with the water.
Yeah. You can have like mill here, for example, or rotating, doing stuff.
So yeah, feel free to look if you see any other ideas in the chat, Petr. If not, I will I will ask some questions that has been brought from the chat.
Okay, in deep water, is there water pressure on items? Yes, it is.
Like crush depth and stuff.
It will crush it to point to very small piece.
Oh man, that's gonna be crazy.
It can be used against fire, definitely. Drilling a rock and then suddenly you hit pressurized pocket. Yes, it's possible. And you can die because of that. How do you... Okay, how do you deal with shear between different chunks of different scale in the octree? How it preserves volume while switching back and forth between lots? For now, it's just average. So in higher lots, I have higher amount of water in the cell, and different chunks of different scale. The rule for water should be that neighbors can be only double size. So double size bigger or double size lower, not more. And in that case, I'm able to calculate flow and proper water behavior. So it is octree, but with some more condition, with some more rules.
Yeah, that was the question I was going to ask you there as well, actually. It was good job. Van Lift says, damn, oceans may become the most dangerous environment. All the dangers, yeah. There's some really good points here. Let me see if any of these questions here. Okay, just a general question then. If you can say, of course, is how long have you been working on this? Water, you know.
Yeah, for full time, I'm working on these prototypes 6 months, probably. I'm not counting it, but
yeah, lost track of time.
Around that. But like in free time and in any time possible, it's much longer. It's like 2 years.
Yeah.
And yeah,
it's amazing though. This is
not only one implementation. This what we are showing now. It's not like the work what I am working on the whole time. As I've been showing at the beginning, I was working on a lot of different implementations and experiments, trying different combinations and looking how water behaves. And this one is so far the best. That's why we are showing it.
Yeah. There's probably some more ones that are a bit bizarre, I imagine.
Yeah, there were simulations which were very dynamic. It was creating waves, vortices, and a lot of funny stuff. But on the other side, it was impossible to calm it down. It was impossible to stabilize it. So every implementation had some pros and also some cons. And that's also why I need to find some good compromise between visual quality and realistic behavior and properties like performance and stabilization of water.
Super. There's so many. There's actually a lot of discussion happening. I've got some more ones here. Another question was, will water evaporate and change locations / volumes as it changes states?
It's not planned. It's one of ideas, but it's not planned because for this feature, I need to start simulate also air or humidity in air. And that would like exponentially increase the performance or request of water.
Let's see this here. I'm actually gonna, Marek, you know that image that you shared in that email about this kind of like, it's like the real life flow of water. Do you remember this one with the kind of cross section? With the ocean, it had the mountain, it had like the water flowing down the mountain and stuff that you sent in one of those email threads.
Okay, you mean the source of water, basically?
Yes.
Yes.
I was wondering if I should show that on the stream, because I think we may have talked about it, but I wasn't sure exactly. Just like...
Yeah, feel free to show the picture.
Okay, hold on.
I think it was from Wikipedia, something like that. And basically, I was just thinking how, like, where does the water come? You know, like how the rivers come to existence. And so we're at that point discussing with Petr that if we can make it so that one possibility is that the water is already, in the game, and that's it. The other possibility is that there can be sources of water, like you can say that in this area it's raining, and so we are basically adding water in those areas, or some other reason. So maybe Petr wants to add something to this.
Yeah, something like that is definitely possible. What I forgot to say is that because it's nicely aligned with voxels, it's quite similar technology. We can easily do conversions between water and voxels. So we can easily do ice or create ice voxels from water. And opposite, we can create water from ice. So you can imagine another bunch of nice gameplay features from that.
Okay, I found the image here. Another question, how would this... Oh, I think... Yeah, I guess, yeah, how would this water work with a rotating planet body?
With a rotating planet body. It will follow it probably, but I was not thinking about rotating planet body. It's in that case, it's dynamic object, and it will react to it. So if we are thinking about rotating planet bodies, it needs to have some kind of local reference system or local transform system, and water will be simulating relatively to this system.
Okay, I found the image. So this was what Minarik, this was just talking a little bit about the this is an idea as well for planets, is talking about the source of water, right? So I've got this image up on stream. And is this also something that you've been kind of like considering when designing these mechanics? Or maybe Minarik maybe it's a question for Minarik, is like Marik's thoughts on this, on getting it to like this level of realism when it comes to the source of water?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let Petr answer.
Okay.
This kind of example is definitely possible. So I have it in mind, and that's also the reason why rivers should be possible to optimize, or why I don't want to update rivers. They will work just by the algorithm itself, just by design.
That's great to hear. That's super awesome.
So basically, like flowing water in rivers is possible?
Yes, it will flow, and it will flow without any additional updates. That's what I mean. That having flowing water means that we don't need any updates to water. It will update only if there is some user interaction. For example, if you start changing voxels around the river, then water starts to be simulated and calculating new streams and new flows.
That is just so exciting. The idea of changing the direction of water, and maybe depending on the uses or the mechanics behind that, it could be detrimental to other things downstream of that, just like in real life, right? It can be either have a good impact, like maybe you're doing it intentionally to to get it to some certain areas of land. But yeah, the idea of controlling the flow of water, not on this like larger scale with rivers, it's super exciting to think about.
You can build viaducts to water your city.
Exactly. There's some great. Okay, some more questions that I've got. I'm getting through this list that I've got here. Besides the LODs, is there some kind of scaling effect for large volumes?
No, not yet.
Okay, there we go. That's an easy one. Can you simulate temperature change? Oh, I think that might be kind of connected to the state change, but still, can you simulate temperature changes such as boiling or freezing? I mean, that might not be like air. It might not be evaporating as such, but maybe freezing.
Yeah, it's possible. It depends on priorities. If we decide it's priority for us, we can add simulation of temperature.
There you go. Is a water planet or a planet with active water? I mean, river into ocean is possible. I mean, yes. I mean, we've already mentioned, I think that one of the earlier slides, Petr was mentioning how this could lead to a water planet, or maybe a planet that has only a few streams or so on. So yeah, that's definitely possible.
If you switch to my screen, I can show some small water planet again in current example.
Okay, yeah. If you load it up, I'll switch it over to that. Super. I'll wait for you to load it up first, and then.
But I will show it in current example.
Okay. I think like this. There we go. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. It's showing now.
Okay. So imagine this is some water in the space. Now I will change gravity.
Mm-hmm.
I will move gravity to some closer area. Okay. For example, here.
Wow. Yeah. You can see it already.
So this cross is gravity center. And now I will make a hole into this sample. And you can see how water follows gravity. And if we wait a little bit, it will create the water planet.
Very awesome.
BioShock music intensifies. So many questions here as well. We got, would it be possible to simulate electricity in water? For example, when the damaged battery is flooded with water.
Yes.
Yes, there we go. Confirmed. I can't get over how satisfying these simulations are to watch, actually. It's so great. I think some people are still just joining the stream, so that's awesome.
There are questions about multiplayer. Yes, it will be another difficult feature to implement with water, but it's possible, definitely. In this case, I think that it will be needed to simulate water also on clients, not only on server. But we will see.
So Marek, it's a bit off topic here from the water, but Marek, a number of players have been asking about the Roman suit behind you, as well as the recent discoveries that some people made. So Erin's asking that you can mention about basically that it's a reserve name. That what players found out about.
You mean the trademark?
Yes, yeah. Basically, just I can say Erin was just reminding me to mention that Roman Engineers is a reserve name. It's not an active project, but because people were making the connection with that and the Roman armor behind you.
Yeah. It's just a reserve name, and just like if you open the imagination, I think there can be a fantasy about having a Roman engineers and this water, an aqueduct. And actually, in those ancient times, water was probably much more important element for engineering than it's today. At least from my perspective, I guess people are still using the water today for in industry quite a lot. But for example, what we have in space engineers, you kind of don't need water that much because you are kind of like beyond that point of futuristic technology. And whereas in the past people were using water as a source of energy, like a work, so that not windmills but water mills and those kind of things, or for example for agriculture to get the water irrigation to areas where it normally wouldn't be. So I think that actually these water features make even more sense for some kind of ancient engineer game than space engineers. But again, I'm just talking about some imagination, not about a real project. And but yeah, it can be really interesting there.
I just wanted to clarify that because there was quite a bit of speculation in the chat and wondering if people have missed something, and so that I think Erin just wanted for us to confirm that it's just a reservation, I think.
And so also I will remind to everyone that what we are seeing here and what we are discussing is just the VRAGE 3 research and development that Petr is working on, and it has nothing to do with space engineers at this point. And we also don't want to promise anything for the future. So this is really just what you are seeing. And the main reason why we are doing this VRAGE Developer Tech Talk and why we'll be doing more of them is recruitment, so that hopefully we will inspire some people who will want to join our company and work on these features or some other features, because not that many companies actually are developing their own engine, and we are, and we are developing a new generation of our engine, and it's really like the next generation of what we are doing. So if people want to really work on their own engine, and especially in a game world or game worlds that we are building, where you have volumetric environment and you are simulating things and so on, then people should join our company. And we will be doing more of these tech talks. And I think in the next one, we'll be focusing on the reasons for choosing VRAGE 3 and not, for example, Unreal Engine or Unity or some other engine. So we can talk about this because we really did like a heavy analysis of pros and cons of everything. And we still we decided to continue with VRAGE and make new generation. And I would say like the main building principle of the new generation of VRAGE is like we want to be able to better use the multi core or multi CPU. So basically the structure of the data, or it's like data oriented, and we're using entity component system. And this way we want to, so like we are basically almost avoiding object-oriented programming. And this way we'll be able to saturate the CPU as much as possible. Because in space engineers, for example, there are situations where the CPU is not saturated. So it's kind of like just wasted. And with this better data-oriented architecture and entity component system and data component system, we can saturate it much more. So this is like a really big part. And for this reason, we actually need to start from scratch, from point zero, because converting VRAGE 2 or converting space engineers to this kind of way of thinking, it would be impossible or very hard. And sometimes it's just better to start from scratch and only bring in the experiences and not bring in the technical depth or, like basically the kind of like the baggage that you have from a project that you have been working on for 8 years, and many people work on it, many people left, and then, like there are some messy parts and so on. So sometimes it's better to start from new thing. And then people can see when they will visit the VRAGE page, they can see many other features that this new engine is going to have and already has. And in my opinion, it will be like the really next generation of what we are doing here, and built for like being able to scale up to multi-CPU or multi-core and like CPUs with more cores, basically without any limits. Like as we will be having 8-core CPUs, 16 cores, and so on and so on. So the game should basically just like naturally adapt to those and saturate all those cores. So there is so much work on VRAGE 3, and it's really interesting work. So if people are interested in this kind of work, they should join King.
Yeah, we will keep repeating it for sure. So yeah, there's 2 pages to check out today. Both the brand new VRAGE page on the King Software House, which site, which actually has a lot of these demonstrations kind of summarized, and also, of course, the careers page as well. I kept saying jobs page, but it's now called careers page. So yeah, the careers page. And just in general, guys, I like to see if you have enjoyed tonight's stream and are looking forward to seeing more of some kind of behind the scenes engine stuff, please drop an 07 in the chat so we can see who's been enjoying this kind of content. I know it's not directly connected to space engineers, but it is very important work that's happening, and it's incredibly important for the future, for sure. So I'm just curious here. Some salutes for people who like this. Super, look at that. There you go, Marek. And Petr, there's a lot of people really enjoying seeing this stuff.
Nice.
Whole page.
I hope that whoever who wants to play with water with us, he will respond and join us.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, it's important to note, addressing that larger question, I guess, is this is not the only thing that's happening. That's the main thing I should stress. Like, performance improvements to our engine that directly affect space engineers is happening all the time. It's a never-ending mission. We're always looking at ways to improve the engine, and game's performance. So for sure, a lot is being done always. This is some more, I say advanced, but this is some more kind of like futuristic, experimental stuff, like not linked to space engineers currently. See what I mean? Let's have a look. Super. Honestly, it's been really nice to have some of these background demonstrations from Petr here. I think some people are still joining the stream late, and I think, what is happening here? But look, this will be archived. You'll be able to find this on YouTube. So if you join us late, you'll be able to catch up and watch the presentation from the start.
I also like the equalization in the water, and that's something that was in some sense surprising, but it's really nice that it works in Petr's simulation. You know that if you have kind of like two tubules or tunnels next to each other, vertical tunnels, the water will equalize. And it's also interesting that Petr doesn't have any kind of global calculation, at least as far as I know, and he's still able to achieve this basically global effect, only from local simulations, basically simulating each individual cell and its neighbors, not seeing the global information, and still able to do things like equalization, which feels kind of like a global thing, or like you would need to have some kind of like global central control, but no, you don't have. It's all decentralized and then local.
This is so cool.
That's true, and it's necessary for parallelization, for multi-threaded simulation.
Going back to that point about improving that in general and of all elements, in our engine, is the optimization that comes with the parallelization.
Yeah, and Petr, do you think that the water will be running on CPU or eventually it will be GPU?
I am counting with CPU, that it will run on CPU, using entity component system and data-oriented design.
Mm-hmm. And is it also because you think that we will like saturate GPU for the rendering?
I think I can have better control on CPU, and it can be even faster than GPU. And because of this loading on GPU and back to CPU and interactivity of water, what I want to achieve. And I would like to keep GPU just for visual effects, like vertex, waves, and so on.
For sure. That's
particles, foam, and effects like this.
Because of course, if you can keep that, because these will also be things that will be heavily intensive. So it's probably, I'd imagine it's better to somehow split some of these things up from the CPU and the GPU. And especially if they really are utilizing the average core count in PCs is definitely increasing more and more. And I think by the time that this would be in a gameplay situation, I think the average PC will be even better, so that's important to think. I mean, Tanobi's asking more questions. I mean, saying like, how would this is maybe connected if it were to apply in Space Engineers, for example, is how would this run on like multiplayer servers? Wouldn't the CPU, GPU explode if it needs to render all the liquids at the same time? I mean, that kind of comes back to where the the LOD and some of the other technology that was mentioned comes into play, I'd say. But I think, would you say, Petr, that performance optimization isn't like the primary concern right now, if you see what I mean? Like, obviously you're taking some into account with the LODs, but like it's still at this stage where you're just seeing what will be possible, if you see what I mean? Because there's people are basically concerned about the performance in any game of a feature like this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely performance is top priority, and all that features must work on planetary scale.
There's a confirmation there. Super.
Petr, maybe on the interplanetary scale, because maybe we will have water, like falling from one planet to another. What we already did is having a ladder, from planet to planet or from planet to moon. So the next level is to have water to water, like a waterfall from planet to another planet. And then you can just like swim, to the other planet.
Yeah, you can swim in that waterfall to another planet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
actually,
definitely possible.
And this is it's a really good point. Talking about this performance is really just like, I was just taken. I'm trying to see here, but basically, there was a time when this new game called Space Engineers, I'm not sure if you guys know about this game, was released, and many people discussing it said that you could never run a multiplayer physics simulation on a planetary scale. But here we are, right? I'm just thinking back to when Space Engineers first released with these asteroids, and there was plenty of speculation that the planets that we have today even wouldn't be, it'd be hard to imagine, right? So that's I think a good point. And I'm sure Minarik and Petr know what people were saying, because they were there from the start, and I think planets were a request pretty early on. So yeah, I don't want to say here, like, never say never or something. Something like this is like always finding new solutions to these ideas. These complicated. Oh, I see here.
These are the best challenges. If everyone says that it's not possible and it cannot work, and then you will do it, that's nice satisfaction.
For sure. We believe, Petr, we believe. I'm just reading some more chat here. Let's have a look. Oh, Honza, hello. We have Honza Nekvapil in the chat. No way, that's awesome. I'm not sure if you. I mean, I think you're seeing. I'm not sure which chat. If you see YouTube chat as well, Petr. But Honza Nekvapil said after seeing this, said something. I think said. I did see a comment. It is. This makes me. So I miss game programming, I think it said. Where was that? I saw a comment, but I've lost it now. So that's cool.
I wouldn't even say that this is programming. This is really a lot of research, like 80-90% of thinking and trying and experimenting, and the rest is programming.
No, I can, and we can see, that you've done a lot of research, obviously into the existing solutions as well, and what else is out there, and seeing the problems, seeing what will be viable, because I think that there are lots of amazing water simulations out there. That was the main thing. You guys have watched enough movies probably in recent years that have incredible, CGI water simulation, but it's about finding a solution to water that has all those nice mechanics of water that we all would like to see, while actually being able to do it in real time. Because a lot of the amazing examples of water simulation that you see will be not real time, offline rendering kind of thing. So that even adds to the challenge, I think, because a lot of those examples that Petr mentioned, there is some great ones out there. It's trying to find ones that will really fit into the game environment, right?
Yes, exactly. Most research is dedicated for visuals and detailed simulation in small area. What we are developing here is large-scale simulation for planets at completely different level, and the research in this field is very, very low.
Yeah, just repeating the message there. Yeah, this is technology we are currently researching for VRAGE and is still very much in an R&D phase. Yeah, thank you for repeating that, Kianata.
There is a good question from T. Nerby, and he's saying this might be a long shot, but are there going to be fluid tanks and or transportation solutions if it gets implemented into space engineers? So, Petr, fluid tanks or transportation solutions?
It's possible, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I can keep the water in some kind of reservoir or box, whatever, and then I can move it to other place.
Mm-hmm. And also some kind of conveyor system, or like pipes.
Maybe for that it would be easier to fake it because you will not see it in conveyors inside.
Yeah. That's what I meant. That you can kind of like put conveyor somewhere, take out the water or the liquid from it. Mm-hmm. Then, as you said, like fake it, the transportation of it through the pipe, and then kind of like splash it again, out, for example, to some other lake or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That would be the sensible way to do it, wouldn't it? Because I'm just thinking, because if you not say made the mistake, but if you chose to put windows in these pipes, then you would get yourself. Because I'm not sure if you guys remember that in the original release of Space Engineers, the conveyor tubes had these windows in them, but the idea was, I think it was one of these things that, to kind of optimize was to not, things are going through these conveyor ducts, but the actual showing them traveling through would add quite a lot of performance hit. It would be cool though, just to actually see the liquid flowing through the pipes and like the bubbles and stuff. That would be super. I guess you could even fake that, couldn't you? If it wasn't actually, I don't know. It could maybe be like inside the pipes. It wouldn't actually be like a physical transportation, maybe at the end points, or if it was like severed, but it could still maybe have some like nice visuals that were faked, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just actually realized that this will mean one more challenge to another thing that we are doing, the level of destruction, that actually we will need to solve this. Because if you will be able to break the conveyor or the pipe system in like little pieces, the fragments that you have seen by Natik, then we must deal with the leaking somehow. Yeah. I wasn't thinking about this. Yeah. Well, okay. So we should shoot ourselves to our foot again. But I think it will be just one additional thing to solve.
Well, yeah. You never know. It can be. This can lead to the chain reaction of the knock-on effects. It's like, well, if we do this way, it's cool, but that means we have to do this, and then the edge cases and everything else, right? So, yeah. Super. So let me think. How have we been doing here? So we've just hit we've gone past the 2-hour mark here. So how are you feeling, Petr? Would you like? Is there any more things you like to show, or if you look for a handful of more questions? How are we feeling?
I think I've shown everything what I could. So if there is any other question.
Yeah, we'll look more have a more dedicated look here at the chat. See if we missed some good questions. It's a lot to process though, and I feel like some people will be definitely catching up with this video and going over this. I'm not sure, and I was going to say it's probably too early to say if we can talk about what might be the next VRAGE, or what and when will be the next VRAGE Developer Tech Talk.
We will see the date. I'm not sure about that one. Mm-hmm. Regarding the topics, so as I said, one is the comparison of different engines for the type of games that we are building. And, like whether to pick Unreal or Unity or VRAGE, 3 or even some other engines, that are like less known. And I think for some programmers it can be really interesting to see a tech talk on this topic, because we'll be digging deep into what does it mean to build a game like Space Engineers or some other engineering game, and what are the requirements, and for example what is not sufficient in Unreal or Unity, or for example what we learned. And I can just say some sneak peek is that we are, for example, measuring the performance of dynamic objects and how fast we are able to render them, and VRAGE 2, or basically what we have in Space Engineers, is much faster than what Unreal can do, because Unreal is not kind of like designed for so many moving dynamic objects. Whereas in our game, the default is that everything can change instantly in one frame. And so we just must calculate with that. So this was one interesting thing that I learned during that analysis that we did about a year ago. But there will be many, because this was mainly Chendo's work, and he has like a huge, document with comparing everything. So I think that one can be interesting. And then let me check another one. I just need to find the notes.
Okay.
What are the other possible topics? So another is actually GPU-driven pipeline or GPU-driven rendering. This basically means that in Space Engineers, of course, rendering is done on GPU, but you are still sending every frame, like a lot of information to GPU, and you are even doing things like calling out invisible geometry on CPU. And the future of VRAGE is focusing on doing as much as possible on GPU. So even this like occlusion culling or frustum culling and all these things doing on GPU. So that's really interesting stuff. So Chendo can talk about this. Then we can talk about DirectX 12. And then there can be a lot of discussion about this data-oriented architecture, entity component system, data component system, how to parallelize things, like what kind of like parallelization and job scheduling and so on, and prioritization tricks we can do. So that can be also a big topic for programmers. What else? Then this is not really developer tech talk, but we can again talk about Space Engineers as an ecosystem, an ecosystem that I had a few weeks ago, a blog post about this, and we can return to this topic and talk more about it. It's less focused on programmers and more focused on creators, and basically showing that everyone who contributes to Space Engineers ecosystem is making it bigger. And one idea is that if people would be rewarded for contributing to the ecosystem, it will grow the value of the ecosystem, and it will be good for everybody. It will be good for Keen, it will be good for creators, community creators, modders, and so on, or YouTubers, like many types of people, but also it will be beneficial for players who just play the game. So that's another nice topic that we can discuss. And there is one which is not really, it's nothing actual, but maybe just a theoretical talk, and it's about orbital mechanics. And this is nothing that we have been prototyping yet, but it's a really interesting topic, and we dig quite deep into it, at least on a theoretical level, and then we'll let it, on a side for some time, because it will really require a lot of dedication and time. But I think it's something that, again, is worth considering and makes sense for our type of games, because what we do is basically, as I said, like, putting things together that when they start interacting in some kind of physical way, emergent things will emerge.
And that's another one of those areas that can obviously lead to, it's not just like one thing. If you want to do it, it would have huge kind of like knock-on effects that we'd have to think about all the other systems and how they would work together within that.
What interests me is that, again, you just put few things, few building blocks, and you let them interact, and you will get thousands of different outcomes, not just one, some prescripted outcome, but you will get thousands of them. And this interests me. And I feel that orbital mechanics is one of them, just like water. And I think orbital mechanics, basically they will change the way you need to design whatever in space engineering. So I think discussing the technical side of orbital mechanics in our kind of game is interesting topic, and we can talk about this sometime in the future. And so, Joel, these are the main topics that we have prepared.
That's great. I mean, I'm not sure if probably the dates and the order is not finalized yet, but that's just a kind of taster for you guys what you can expect to see from these different kind of streams. Like obviously we're doing space engineer streams, or I'm hosting these community streams and having modders and stuff on, but also we want to start talking more about the behind the scenes of not necessarily just the game, because we often do that on the update streams, but this is more of the back end, or more of the future and the kind of next generation technology that we are like researching and working on at Keen Software House. So definitely trying to keep the mix of content here. But yeah, there's some great topics there, and I hope you guys will tune in for these ones as well.
Yeah. So I think Joel and Petr, thank you very much. I think we discussed this topic really thoroughly, and I hope the community has a better idea about what we are working on. And I think it's best to end, in the best moment or so. So yeah, I think this was really interesting tech talk. And I hope some people will rewatch it and hopefully apply for a job.
Yeah, there it is. Definitely check it out. That's the main thing from today. You got the keensoftwarehouse.com/VRAGE, the new page we just launched today, and of course the keensoftwarehouse.com/careers. And Petr, I want to hand over to you now. Any kind of final words from you today, sir, and your after this awesome presentation of your work?
I love working on this technology, and I hope that I inspired someone from the viewers from the chat that they will apply and will try their skills to work together on such features like water is. Thank you.
There you go. Awesome stuff. Well, thank you so much to Minarik and Petr for joining me today on this very special Developer Tech Talk, the first of many. And of course, thank you to you guys for tuning in today. It's been really great to read your reactions and respond to some of your questions. And yeah, we're looking forward to the next one already. So until next time, guys, bye-bye. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.